Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're doing something a little different. We're focusing our attention not on lots of different sources, but on just one single, really potent piece of material.
Yes, it's an excerpt detailing a foundational spiritual memory, a single moment.
Exactly. A moment that was incredibly brief, apparently, but somehow set the stage for, well, the next 70 years of this person's life.
70 years is a long time for something fleeting to have such an impact.
That's our mission here, really, to unpack the power in this specific experience. I mean, the narrator is writing this down, sharing it for the absolute first time after all those decades.
70 years of silence.
So the paradox is huge, isn't it? How can something so quick create such lasting certainty? And maybe even more intriguing, why keep it totally secret for so long?
And it's not just some vague feeling they're describing. The source gives us some very specific details, anchors it.
Like what?
Well, it happened around 1956 in South Wales in the UK, near a place called The Woods at the Llanishen Housing Estate in Cardiff.
Okay, very specific.
And the narrator, only about 4 years old at the time. So you've got this combination, the place, the year, the really young age. It tells you this isn't just a hazy memory, it's sharply etched.
Right. Resistant to time somehow. Okay, so let's taint the picture of that day back in 1956. The source says it was a beautiful spring morning,
Mm-hmm.
and the journey was, well, pretty ordinary. Just a short walk, maybe 300 yards or so, from their council house to the woods nearby.
So not exactly a pilgrimage, just a child out for a walk.
Pretty much.
Oh.
The narrator remembers just looking around, at the bushes and trees, enjoying every moment, completely absorbed in the physical world.
That state of mind seems important, just present, open.
Yes, totally present, focused on the simple things. A 4-year-old's perspective on a spring day. No big spiritual quest happening.
And that's what makes the shift so fascinating, I think. The sudden pivot from just, looking at trees to something genuinely transcendental.
Triggered by something tiny, right?
Exactly. It wasn't some grand vision. It was catalyzed by a very specific detail, a bush that was sprouting small yellow flowers.
Just a little yellow flower.
And the action that leads to the experience is so simple, almost involuntary. The narrator says, I stretched out my hand to touch one of the flowers.
Just reaching out. Pure curiosity, maybe.
Seems like it. That moment of physical contact with something small, alive, that seems to be the switch, the thing that opened the door.
Okay, so here's the core of it. As soon as their hand touched that little flower, the narrator says they suddenly felt a heavenly presence.
Not a sight or a sound, a feeling. Pure presence appearing instantly.
And what's really staggering is the understanding that came with it, especially for a 4-year-old.
Yes.
The source says, despite it being incredibly brief, they intuitively knew that it was the presence of God.
Wow. No hesitation, no trying to figure it out.
Apparently not. Just direct knowing, unmediated, no adult explanation needed.
That contrast between how short it was and how profound it felt. That's really interesting. The narrator emphasizes it. Very short, but so profound. Unforgettable.
Yeah.
It makes you ask, why do the shortest moments sometimes hit the hardest, carry the most weight?
Maybe it's about purity. Less time for the brain to interfere.
That could be part of it, especially for a child that young. Think about a 4-year-old's processing power. A long, complex event, maybe too much, overwhelming, easily distorted later.
Right.
But a flash, a quick, intense hit of connection. That could bypass the analytical part of the brain that's just starting to develop. It gets stored like raw data, foundational.
So if it had lasted longer, say 30 seconds.
The child might have started trying to label it, maybe gotten scared or tried to find words. And that could actually diminish the pure feeling itself. The brevity preserves the intensity.
So this isn't just being filed under strong childhood memory.
Yeah.
The narrator explicitly calls it a sacred encounter, a divine encounter.
It's a claim of direct knowledge, received through touch, instantly, without any religious framework or interpretation laid on top.
Which brings us to what might be the biggest puzzle here. The secrecy.
The 70 years of silence.
The narrator is crystal clear. I never told anyone, not even my parents, about this experience. Writing it down now is the first time it's being shared, ever.
That level of silence about something so fundamental to who you are spiritually, it's hard to grasp. Why? Why keep that locked away for so long?
What are the possibilities?
Well, the source sort of hints that it felt too sacred, maybe too intimate to put into words or share, like a private trust.
Protecting the experience.
Perhaps. Or if we look at it psychologically, maybe it was protective inhibition. Think about being 4 years old in, 1950s Wales,
Okay.
trying to explain, I felt God when I touched a flower to your parents, who were likely busy, maybe quite practical people.
Yeah, you probably wouldn't get the response you needed. Confusion, dismissal. Oh, that's nice, dear.
Or worse, maybe they'd try to interpret it for you. Did you see an angel? Were you thinking about Sunday school? Forcing it into a box it doesn't fit in?
And that could ruin it.
Exactly. So the child, maybe intuitively sensing how big this feeling is, might also sense there just aren't words for it yet. Certainly not words adults would understand or validate.
So keeping quiet becomes a way to preserve it.
Yes, to keep it pure, uncorrupted by clumsy language or someone else's ideas. The moment you try to define something that profound, especially too early, you risk replacing the raw feeling with, imperfect human concepts. Silence becomes an act of preservation.
That's a powerful idea. The not sharing is what kept it intact for 70 years. Secrecy as preservation.
And it needed preserving, it seems, because it became the foundation for everything else. The narrator looks back now over all those decades and says they've had numerous spiritual experiences since that day. But, and this is crucial, that moment in the woods, that's seen as the start, the origin point.
The benchmark.
Yeah.
Everything else is maybe compared back to that initial pure feeling.
Seems like it. And the narrator actually offers an interpretation now, looking back. They think that this fleeting experience must have been God's way of revealing his presence
Wow.
in a way that was deliberately brief and intimate. The intimacy was possible because the recipient was so young and because the moment was so short. Those were the conditions needed for this specific kind of knowing.
Which leads us to the narrator's final point, right? The one
Yeah.
that really reframes it all.
Yes. After 70 years of thinking about it, the conclusion is that this experience was one which only a child would have been able to grasp.
Only a child. Why?
Well, what does that suggest to you, the listener, when you're trying to understand something deep? It implies some kinds of knowledge might actually need a child's specific way of receiving things, or maybe their lack of certain filters.
Filters.
Yeah, think about how an adult brain reacts to something extraordinary, like a heavenly presence. We immediately start analyzing, right, is this real? Is it psychological? Am I imagining this? Is it cultural conditioning?
We try to categorize it, explain it away maybe.
Exactly. We run it through all our filters. But a 4-year-old, those filters aren't really developed yet. They don't have the complex framework for skepticism or analysis.
So they just receive it.
They receive the data, process it instantly as real, as truth, and just store it. No questioning the how or why. It just is.
So the memory's power, its endurance, is directly tied to that immediate, intuitive, unquestioning acceptance. The lack of adult intellectual baggage is actually what made it stick.
Precisely. It was grasped before the adult mind could start picking it apart, demanding definitions, trying to fit it into neat boxes. The purity of how it was received allowed it to remain a core conviction. It wasn't learned, it was known.
And maybe that's why the silence was necessary for so long, to protect that child's knowing from the adult's need to analyze and possibly dismantle it.
It's a strong possibility.
So our deep dive today has really centered on this single, incredibly short memory, touching a yellow flower in Wales, an act that became the absolute spiritual bedrock for a 70-year life, a life shaped by that intensity and by the remarkable decades-long privacy that guarded it.
Which leaves us with a pretty challenging thought for you to take away. If this kind of deep, foundational knowing was only graspable by that child because it was so intimate and brief, does that mean profound truth sometimes slips past us as adults?
Because we're trying too hard?
Maybe. Because we're trying too hard to analyze it, to put it into words, to make sense of it intellectual instead of just sensing it, accepting it. Makes you wonder, doesn't it? What simple, pure truths did you perhaps know as a child that got complicated or obscured later by language and analysis?
Something to reflect on. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive.